Psalm 35 invites you to experience the fullness of a joyful and blessed life in the presence of the Lord. As we delve into the verses of Psalm 35, get ready to uncover the blessings and happiness that await you. This psalm is a timeless testament to God's unwavering care, His unbreakable shield over your life, and the abundant blessings that come from trusting in Him. Praying this psalm will unlock endless divine care for you and your loved ones. Welcome to Psalms and Prayers, your sanctuary for spiritual growth and connection with God. We invite you to deepen your devotion, nurture your faith through daily practice, and strengthen your bond with the Lord. If you're ready to join us on this transformative path, please subscribe to our channel. Your comments and likes help us share the love of God, and we're immensely grateful to have you here. Let us start with verse 1. Verse 1. Contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. In these words, you can find the essence of divine protection, strength, and justice. Imagine facing adversaries, challenges, and conflicts in your life. This verse invites you to call upon the Lord, the ultimate defender of your cause. Let Him contend for you, for He is your mighty shield and advocate. Fight against those who fight against me is a declaration of trust in God's intervention. It's an acknowledgement that when you face battles, whether they are personal or spiritual, God stands with you as your unwavering protector. He will fight on your behalf. Now, consider the challenges and conflicts you've encountered or currently face. Embrace the assurance that God contends for you, fighting battles you may not even be aware of. Trust in His divine justice and unwavering support. Verse 2. Take hold of shield and buckler and rise for my help. In the second verse of Psalm 35, we witness a call for God to rise as our defender and protector. Take hold of shield and buckler paints an image of God equipping Himself for battle on your behalf. The shield and buckler symbolize His protective presence and readiness to shield you from harm. This verse is a reminder that in times of need, you can call upon the Lord to rise up as your help and defender. Imagine Him standing beside you, ready to face any challenge or adversity that comes your way. Consider the situations where you felt vulnerable or under attack. Let this verse inspire you to turn to God, knowing that He is your ultimate source of strength and protection. Verse 3. Draw the spear and javelin against my pursuers. Say to my soul, I am your salvation. These words are a call to God, for Him to be our salvation and deliverance. Draw the spear and javelin against my pursuers symbolizes God's active intervention against those who seek to harm you. It's a request for divine justice to prevail over your enemies. Say to my soul, I am your salvation. Is a reminder that in the face of adversity, God declares Himself as your ultimate source of salvation and deliverance. Imagine His comforting words assuring you of His protection and rescue. Reflect on the challenges or threats you've encountered. Picture God's mighty intervention, drawing the spear and javelin against your pursuers. Let His declaration of salvation resonate in your heart, bringing you peace and courage. Verse 4. Let them be put to shame and dishonor who seek after my life. Let them be turned back and disappointed who devise evil against me. In the fourth verse of Psalm 35, we witness a plea for justice and protection against those who seek harm. Let them be put to shame and dishonor is a request for divine retribution against those who aim to harm you unjustly. It's a plea for God to thwart their plans and expose their wrongdoing. Let them be turned back and disappointed emphasizes the desire for God to frustrate the evil schemes of your adversaries. It's an assertion of your trust in God's ability to defend you. Consider the times when you faced opposition or ill intentions. Envision God intervening, causing your adversaries to be put to shame and their plans to crumble. Let this verse strengthen your faith in God's protective power. Verse 5. Let them be like chaff before the wind, with the angel of the Lord driving them away. In the 5th verse of Psalm 35, we encounter a vivid image of divine intervention against your enemies. Let them be like chaff before the wind is about the frailty and transience of those who seek to harm you. Chaff, which is easily carried away by the wind, represents the fleeting nature of their efforts. With the angel of the Lord driving them away, tells us that God's divine messengers are at work on your behalf, ensuring the dispersal of your adversaries. Imagine God's angelic forces intervening, scattering your enemies like chaff before the wind. Envision His protection and guidance, ensuring your safety and deliverance. Reflect on the challenges you've faced and the adversaries you've encountered. Let this verse fill you with confidence in God's ability to drive away those who seek to harm you. Verse 6, let their way be dark and slippery, with the angel of the Lord pursuing them. In the 6th verse of Psalm 35, we witness a plea for divine intervention in the lives of those who seek to harm you. Let their way be dark and slippery symbolizes the confusion and uncertainty that befall those who walk in opposition to your well-being. It's a call for God to disrupt their plans and lead them astray. With the angel of the Lord pursuing them emphasizes God's justice in action, with His angelic forces pursuing and thwarting the paths of your adversaries. Imagine the divine intervention, causing the way of your enemies to become dark and uncertain. Envision God's angelic messengers pursuing them, ensuring that their efforts are disrupted. This intervention will protect the dark from entering, so that light and happiness can flourish in your life. Think about the challenges you've faced due to the actions of others. Let this verse bolster your faith in God's ability to bring justice and confusion to those who oppose you. Verse 7, for without cause they hid their net for me. Without cause they dug a pit for my life. Here we confront the injustice and harm inflicted upon you by those who seek to trap and harm you. For without cause they hid their net for me highlights the unjust and malicious intentions of your adversaries. It's a declaration of innocence and an appeal to God for deliverance. Without cause, they dug a pit for my life underscores the severity of the threat posed by your enemies. God is asked to rescue you from their snares and schemes. Consider the times when you faced unfounded accusations or plots against you. Imagine God exposing the baselessness of these actions and rescuing you from their snares. Let this verse strengthen your conviction in God's role as your defender, delivering you from unjust traps set by others. Verse 8. Let destruction come upon him when he does not know it, and let the net that he hid ensnare him. Let him fall into it, to his destruction. Hear the divine retribution against those who have plotted against you in this verse. Let destruction come upon him when he does not know it is a call for God to bring consequences upon your adversaries, even when they least expect it. It's a reminder that divine justice operates beyond human comprehension. And let the net that he hid ensnare him. Let him fall into it, to his destruction. Underscores the idea that the snares and plots set by your enemies will ultimately lead to their own downfall. Visualize God's justice prevailing, causing the schemes of your adversaries to backfire on them. Envision their own traps ensnaring them, leading to their downfall. Please put your trust in God's ability to bring consequences upon those who seek to harm you unjustly. Verse 9. Then my soul will rejoice in the Lord, exulting in his salvation. In the 9th verse of Psalm 35, we witness a shift from pleas for divine intervention to a declaration of joy in the Lord's salvation. Then my soul will rejoice in the Lord signifies the profound joy and gratitude that will fill your heart when God's deliverance and justice are realized. Here, we go from the dark to the light. Exulting in his salvation is the jubilation and celebration of God's saving grace. It's a reminder that, in the end, your trust in the Lord's deliverance will be rewarded with joy. Imagine the moment when God's justice prevails and your adversaries face the consequences of their actions. Picture the overwhelming sense of joy and gratitude that will fill your soul. Remember the trials and injustices you've endured. Let this verse inspire you to trust in God's salvation, knowing that your soul will rejoice when justice is served. Verse 10. All my bones shall say, O Lord, who is like you, delivering the poor from him who is too strong for him, the poor and needy from him who robs him. Here we can feel God's unmatched deliverance, especially for the vulnerable and oppressed. All my bones shall say, O Lord, who is like you, signifies a profound recognition of God's incomparable power and mercy. It's a testament to his unmatched ability to deliver those who are oppressed. Delivering the poor from him who is too strong for him, the poor and needy from him who robs him, underscores God's role as the protector of the weak and the defender of the oppressed. It's a reminder that God's justice prevails, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Imagine your very being proclaiming the uniqueness of God's deliverance. Visualize the oppressed and vulnerable finding refuge and justice through God's intervention. Think back about the injustices and hardships faced by those who are vulnerable. Let this verse deepen your appreciation for God's role as the ultimate defender of not only yourself, but also the poor and needy. Verse 11. Malicious witnesses rise up. They ask me of things that I do not know. Malicious witnesses rise up highlights the presence of false accusers and adversaries who seek to harm you through deceit. It's a plea for God to counteract their false testimonies. They ask me of things that I do not know acknowledges the unjust and baseless questions posed by your adversaries. It's an appeal to God for clarity and vindication. Consider the times when you've been unjustly accused or faced deceptive inquiries. Envision God exposing the falsehoods and delivering you from false accusations. Let this verse reaffirm your trust in God's ability to thwart the schemes of malicious witnesses and bring clarity to your situation. Verse 12, they repay me evil for good. My soul is bereft. This verse confronts the pain and sorrow that can result from experiencing harm despite showing kindness. They repay me evil for good signifies the injustice of being treated poorly despite your acts of kindness and goodwill. It's an expression of the emotional toll such experiences can take. My soul is bereft conveys the sense of emptiness and sorrow that can accompany unjust treatment. It's an acknowledgement of the deep emotional impact of facing betrayal and ingratitude. Reflect on the moments when you've experienced unkindness or betrayal despite your good intentions. Allow this verse to resonate with your emotions and seek solace in God's understanding and care. Please let that sink in. Verse 13, but I, when they were sick, I wore sackcloth. I afflicted myself with fasting. I prayed with head bowed on my chest. Verse 13 is reflection on the empathy and compassion you've shown even in the face of adversity. But I, when they were sick, I wore sackcloth, highlights your willingness to show empathy and support to those who were in need, even when you faced hardships yourself. It's a testament to your compassionate nature, which we all have if we are aligned with the Great Spirit, or God. I afflicted myself with fasting underscores your commitment to seeking the well-being of others through self-sacrifice and prayer. I prayed with head bowed on my chest signifies your humble and heartfelt prayers on behalf of others, even when faced with challenges. Think about the times when you've extended kindness and support to others, even in the midst of your own difficulties. Allow this verse to remind you of your capacity for empathy and compassion. Verse 14. I went about as though I grieved for my friend or my brother. As one who laments his mother, I bowed down in mourning. This verse is about the depth of your empathy and the extent to which you've shown compassion. I went about as though I grieved for my friend or my brother illustrates your willingness to go to great lengths to support and comfort those close to you, even to the point of mourning alongside them. As one who laments his mother, I bowed down in mourning, emphasizes the intensity of your grief and compassion, comparing it to the mourning of a beloved family member. Think about the times when you've walked beside friends or family members in their moments of sorrow and hardship. Let this verse reaffirm your capacity for profound empathy and love. Verse 15. But at my stumbling they rejoiced and gathered. They gathered together against me. Wretches whom I did not know tore at me without ceasing. In the 15th verse of Psalm 35, we confront the pain of facing betrayal and opposition from unexpected sources. But at my stumbling they rejoiced and gathered illustrates the betrayal and joy that others took in your moments of weakness or vulnerability. It's a recognition of the pain of facing opposition from unexpected quarters. They gathered together against me. Wretches whom I did not know underscores the unexpected nature of the betrayal, as those you did not expect to turn against you joined together. It's all about resonating with your experiences and seek comfort in God's understanding and support. Verse 16. Like profane mockers at a feast, they gnash at me with their teeth. Here, we encounter a vivid description of your adversary's hostility and mockery. Like profane mockers at a feast paints a picture of your adversary's cruel and derisive behavior, akin to those who mock and taunt during a joyous occasion. Visualize the challenging circumstances you've faced, where others have mocked and taunted you. Let this verse resonate with those experiences and seek solace in God's understanding and support. Verse 17. How long, O Lord, will you look on? Rescue me from their destruction, my precious life from the lions. In the 17th verse of Psalm 35, we find a heartfelt plea for God's intervention and deliverance from imminent danger. How long, O Lord, will you look on? Reflects your desperation and longing for God's timely rescue. It's an appeal for swift divine intervention. Rescue me from their destruction, my precious life from the lions. Underscores the urgency of your situation and the peril you face. It's a plea for God to protect your life from imminent harm. Imagine the intensity of your plea for God's rescue in the face of danger. Visualize God's mighty hand reaching out to deliver you from harm's way. Pray on the moments when you feel overwhelmed by the threats and dangers of life. Let this verse renew your trust in God's ability to provide timely deliverance. Verse 18. I will thank you in the great congregation, in the mighty throng I will praise you. Here is a declaration of gratitude and praise for God's deliverance. I will thank you in the great congregation signifies your intention to publicly acknowledge and express gratitude for God's intervention. It's a testament to your desire to share your testimony with others. In the mighty throng I will praise you emphasizes the exuberance and magnitude of your praise in the presence of a multitude. It's an acknowledgement of the impact of your testimony on those who witness it. When you stand before a great congregation, see yourself sharing your testimony of God's deliverance and protection. Visualize the outpouring of praise and gratitude. Reflect on the times when God has intervened in your life, providing deliverance and protection. Let this verse inspire you to offer heartfelt thanks and praise in both private and public settings. Verse 19. Let not those rejoice over me who are wrongfully my foes, and let not those wink the eye who hate me without cause. This is a scream for justice and a desire for those who wrongfully oppose you to be thwarted. Let not those rejoice over me who are wrongfully my foes signifies your desire for God to prevent your adversaries from finding joy in your suffering and misfortune. It's an appeal for divine intervention in your favor. And let not those wink the eye who hate me without cause. emphasizes your longing for those who harbor baseless hatred toward you to be deterred from their malicious actions. Visualize the frustration and pain of facing unjust opposition and hatred. Envision God intervening to protect and defend you against those who seek to harm you without cause. Everybody has an example in their lives of moments where they have been unjustly targeted or opposed. Put your trust in God's ability to bring justice and thwart the plans of your adversaries. Verse 20. For they do not speak peace, but against those who are quiet in the land they devise words of deceit. For they do not speak peace highlights the absence of goodwill or peaceful intentions in their words and actions. It's an acknowledgement of their hostile nature. But against those who are quiet in the land, they devise words of deceit, underscores their tendency to target those who are peaceful and unassuming, using deceitful tactics. Imagine the harm caused by individuals who intentionally speak words of deceit and cause strife. Visualize God's intervention to thwart their malicious plans. Reflect on the times when you've witnessed or experienced deceitful actions that disrupted peace. Let this verse reinforce your trust in God's ability to bring justice and expose a falsehood. Verse 21. They open wide their mouths against me. They say, Aho, aha, our eyes have seen it. In verse 21, we encounter a description of your adversary's taunts and gloating. They open wide their mouths against me paints a picture of their taunting and mocking behavior. It's an illustration of their cruelty. They say, Aha, aha, our eyes have seen it, emphasizes their glee in witnessing your distress and misfortune, as if celebrating your suffering. Visualize the hurt and frustration caused by such taunts and gloating. Envision God's intervention to silence their mocking and protect your well-being. This shows us there is a way to go. Pray and turn to God for refuge and deliverance. Verse 22. You have seen, O Lord, be not silent. O Lord, be not far from me. These words are pointed directly to the Lord himself. You have seen, O Lord, be not silent, signifies your appeal for God to respond to the injustices and taunts you've endured. It's a call for divine action. O Lord, be not far from me, emphasizes your desire for God's close presence and protection. It's a declaration of your need for his immediate help. Here we can pray with these words and imagine God drawing near to shield and defend you. Verse 23. Awake and rouse yourself for my vindication, for my cause, my God and my Lord. This is again a passionate call for God's intervention and vindication. Awake and rouse yourself for my vindication signifies your urgent appeal for God to rise and act on your behalf, ensuring your justice and vindication. For my cause, my God and my Lord emphasizes your confidence in God's role as your defender and the one who champions your cause. Think about when you cry out to God with unwavering faith, calling upon him to rise and bring vindication and justice. Let this verse strengthen your trust in his role as your advocate and protector. Verse 24. Vindicate me, O Lord, my God, according to your righteousness, and let them not rejoice over me. Vindicate me, O Lord, my God, according to your righteousness, shows your appeal for God to bring about justice in alignment with his perfect righteousness. And let them not rejoice over me underscores your desire for your adversaries to be denied the satisfaction of rejoicing over your downfall. Imagine the moment when you stand before God, pleading for his righteous judgment and intervention. Visualize God's response, bringing vindication and thwarting the plans of your adversaries. Put your trust in God's righteousness and his ability to ensure your vindication. Verse 25. Let them not say in their hearts, Aha, our heart's desire. Let them not say, We have swallowed him up. This is about your adversaries' plans to be thwarted and their malicious intentions to be denied. It's a plea for their gloating to be silenced. Let them not say, We have swallowed him up. Underscores. You're longing for your adversaries to be denied the satisfaction of believing they've defeated you. Now feel the frustration and disappointment of your adversaries as their plans are thwarted by God's intervention. Then envision God's hand at work, ensuring your protection and deliverance. Take this all in. Again, put your trust in God's ability to protect and preserve you. Verse 26. Let them be put to shame and disappointed altogether who rejoice at my calamity. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor who magnify themselves against me. We ask out loud for God to let adversaries face shame and dishonor instead of rejoicing in your misfortune. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor who magnify themselves against me. Underscores your desire for your adversaries to experience dishonor and humility. Imagine the transformation of your adversaries' attitudes as they are confronted with shame and dishonor instead of rejoicing. See and feel how God's justice is being served. Verse 27. Let those who delight in my righteousness shout for joy and be glad and say evermore, great is the Lord who delights in the welfare of his servant. In the 27th verse of Psalm 35, we encounter a declaration of joy and praise for God's delight in your righteousness. Let those who delight in my righteousness shout for joy and be glad, signifies your desire for those who recognize your righteousness to celebrate and rejoice. And say evermore, great is the Lord who delights in the welfare of his servant. Emphasizes your acknowledgement of God's delight in your well-being and his role as your protector. Celebrate and feel the joy of those who recognize God's favor upon you. Envision their praise and acknowledgement of God's goodness. Think back to when your righteousness has been recognized and celebrated. Let this prove to you that you have to continue seeking God's favor and living a righteous life. Verse 28, then my tongue shall tell of your righteousness and of your praise all the day long. The last verse is about your commitment to proclaim God's righteousness and praise continually. Then my tongue shall tell of your righteousness signifies your intention to bear witness to God's righteousness and faithfulness. And of your praise all the day long emphasizes your desire to offer unceasing praise and worship to God. Imagine the continuous praise and gratitude flowing from your heart as you proclaim God's righteousness. Visualize a life filled with the testimony of his goodness and faithfulness. Reflect on the moments when you've experienced God's righteousness and faithfulness in your life. Let this verse reaffirm your commitment to live a life of praise and gratitude. As we are at the end of Psalm 35, we can conclude this is a profound message of divine intervention and the pursuit of happiness. Each verse serves as a powerful reminder of God's role as your source of joy and defender, especially in times of adversity and injustice. May you discover boundless happiness, inner strength, and a deepening connection with the Lord as you delve into and reflect upon these verses. May you bask in the transformative power of God's presence in your life, recognizing that He not only fights your battles, but also ensures your happiness and well-being. Incorporate Psalm 35 into your daily spiritual practice to actually feel defended and protected. Revisit these verses, pray with them, and allow their wisdom to permeate your life. Just as God contends for you, may you find happiness, victory, and divine protection in every aspect of your life. To help you incorporate this psalm in your life, we have created a beautiful digital print for you. You can access it by clicking the link in the description box down below. Thank you for joining us on this sacred journey through Psalm 35. We're honored to have you here as we explore the timeless wisdom and comfort it offers. Please subscribe to our channel to continue receiving spiritual insights and guidance. Your subscription helps us spread the love of God, and we look forward to sharing more psalms and prayers with you in the future.